Italian Football Podcast.
So let's do a profile on Ederson, who has been one of Serie A's best midfielders so far this season. I would actually go as far as to argue that he's been the best midfielder in Serie A this season after Hakan Çalhanoğlu. I would say that.
I think in terms of consistency, I wouldn't argue with you too much. I think he's been very, very good. Or maybe let me scratch that. Not maybe in terms of consistency, yes, but more so in terms of the heights he's reached. I think when he's been at his best, he has been up there
I think he's been very consistent as well. I think he's been constant from start to finish. I think he's been fantastic. I mean, he does a bit of everything. He's a box to box midfielder. But he can play as a defensive midfielder. He can play as a more attacking central midfielder. I think box to box is his best role. And he first came to Serie A, first burst onto the scene in the second half of the 21-22 season when he joined Salernitana from Corinthians in the last days of the January transfer window. And we all remember that because Salernitana were rock bottom and almost certain to go down. They were way off safety. And then Davide Nicola led them on this incredible safety journey, and they managed to stay up. And Ederson was one of the biggest reasons for that. He was brilliant in that second half of the season, and it earned him a transfer that summer to Atalanta for 21 million euros. And I remember on this pod predicting that he would be like the breakout star of last season. And he wasn't bad last season, but he was just average, really. He was a bit underwhelming, let's be honest, from what we were expecting. Just 1 goal, 1 assist last season for Atalanta. But he has exploded this season. So it took him a little bit of time, but now he has broken out this season. And
no, he has. He
as I said, fantastic. Been playing fantastic. He's scored 5 goals this season, which is pretty good, I think, for the position he plays. He's very good, late runs into the box, but he's also been defensively one of the best midfielders in the league. He's 5th of all players in Serie A for the average number of tackles per game, 2.7. So he's making a lot of tackles, and he's joint 4th for interceptions per game. And also together with Koopmeiners, I think he's, again, after Inter, I think that's the best central midfield partnership, let's say, in the league. Maybe the best partnership, because I don't know whether you have a partnership at Inter. You've got more of a trio, haven't you? But him and Koopmeiners have been brilliant together. And he's as a result, he's getting interest from a lot of big teams. Newcastle tried to sign him, I'm told, in January. And there's a lot of interest from the Premier League in Ederson, but also from Juventus, like him and Koopmeiners. And Inter have been linked to him in the past as well. So I think he's one to watch for this summer for sure.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment. I personally think that I think he's the next big player. But I think Lookman is the big that's the big player they're going to sell this summer. I think Ademola Lookman is the one that they're going to cash in on, because I think he's got lots of mercato, if I may translate an Italian phrase. He has lots of mercato in the Premier League. I don't see Ederson as much, maybe perhaps a Premier League player as I see Ademola Lookman. But
really, I think he's man-made for the Premier League because he runs. Yeah, I mean he runs.
Yeah, he does. But I mean, if I'm
non-stop,
fair.
He's very competitive. He wins a lot of tackles. I think he's definitely. I think he'd be good anywhere, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think he's more, for me, I think Lookman is more of a Premier League player, if that makes sense. I think I think they would love him in the Premier League. I don't know, I just feel like the kind of player he is, he suits better in the Premier League. Ederson is, I mean, like you said, I think he'll fit anywhere. Personally, I think if Ederson leaves, I think it'll be for a Spanish side. I think in La Liga, he would just be magical. But I think, a good player will work everywhere. But I hope that they don't lose. I mean, if they get to the Champions League, I hope they don't lose all their players. Because, come on, and we know the business model they have at Atalanta. But I mean, if they get to the Champions League and they are a financially very stable club, they can mitigate.
I think Lookman stays because he wants to play Champions League football, and I don't see a big Premier League team that are in the Champions League him being good enough for them. So I don't think he goes there.
See, that's the thing, though. I don't think you need to be good enough. I don't think you need to be a big Premier League team because nowadays Bournemouth can outspend Inter and Milan.
Yeah, but I'm talking about Champions League. I think he wants to play in the Champions League, and Bournemouth are not going to be in the Champions League.
No, they're not. They are not. but I mean, like in terms of money, I mean, it depends. You never know with these
until
players.
UEFA gives 20 Champions League spots to Premier League.